hopefully we can plant some seeds for other people that can help them.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Um, Dating. What are we leaving out?
Um, I've been politely told by some, and I've been rudely told by others, like, I can't date you. You're legally blind, and I want to get married. I want to have kids.
Oh yeah, kids.
I don't want to run the risk of my kids having this condition because it is hereditary. I have 5 sisters. Skipped 3, went to 1. Skipped 1, went to me. My sister that has it, she has 2 kids. 1 has it, 1 doesn't. So it's a rolling of the dice, and people aren't willing to gamble. And it's luckily you do find someone that does love you for who you are and not pick apart the differences. But,
Yeah.
but how was your
Well,
experience?
that's interesting. So mine, every time I would go see a doctor, once I was an adult, so I'm gonna say once I was 30, and I just kept asking my doctors that question. If I ever had kids, would my kids have this condition? Because at that point, we didn't think anybody else in my family had it. Turns out my mom does have it, but because or my mom has a version of it, but she has the light version. And so because she's a female and I only have brothers, and with the boys, it was a 50-50. So my parents did really well. They only, just got one of us. So out of 3, that's good. But I always had that fear. And the thing is, like we were just talking about, having things taken away and how emotionally difficult that is for you. I think it's one thing to deal with it yourself, but I personally felt like, having lived it and gone through it and knowing it, if I had a child that had the same condition, I just felt like it would be so much harder for me to watch my kid go through it.
Yeah.
And so I actually chose not to have kids.
Yep.
And I feel so sorry for my parents having to have watched, this process. And especially then, just here in the last 2 years, found out, gene came from my mom. She didn't know. They didn't have that technology back then. And she didn't have any of the symptoms. So, but, mother's guilt being what it is, like I feel so bad, even though she shouldn't feel guilty, like she did a great job raising me, and, she was always a wonderful mom. So I applaud her. And in particular, my mom has just been this amazing support person throughout the whole experience.
Yeah. I used to always have an idea that I would want to have like 2 kids.
Okay.
When I was growing up, and then as I got older, I got involved with someone who I really, really cared for. And he goes, if we want this to go any further, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. If you want those things, you need to go elsewhere. And then I started getting back in my head, like, all right, maybe I shouldn't have kids, because then what if I do that and do have kids and they have it? But I feel guilty about that because you can't test for that. Like you can test for other things nowadays. But I end up having a stepdaughter because of my late wife's previous marriage. And I remember having watching her myself alone for the first time, and going to the playground and having that fear, like I can't tell where she's at on the playground.
Yeah.
And then we came up with a system like a really bright shirt. There's always a workaround, but it's a real fear that I took other people's fears and put it in myself, even though I didn't have that fear to begin with. Like I manifested it myself. So it's hopefully if anybody else comes across this, they're like, all right, slow down, think about it. It's not as bad. There's always a way around it.
Right.
Type of situation.
Yeah, and also be honest with yourself. And I mean, I think at the end of the day that if you can have that good, honest communication, talk about your fears. One of the people I dated, I was really into her, but on like our second date, she said, I want to have kids. And I said, I don't. And she was like, well, then this is over. And I said, well, hang on, But eventually we did get to a place in our relationship where I said, I might, but I just kept, I was like, I'm doing it for you. But I never got to a place where I was personally comfortable, and she felt that. And so we went our separate ways and all of that. But, it certainly ended things in that relationship. And it really, she was right on that second date. We should have just ended it there. I'm grateful for the time we had together.
Right.
And, like what you were saying about the bright colored clothes at the playground.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wear my yellow hat. And part of that is so that my friends can find me because I can't find them.
Right.
And so luckily, this is the one advantage of being tall. They look up, find the yellow hat, and go that way,
Yep.
And so I do kind of the reverse of that. And all my friends know to just look for the yellow hat and come find me because I really can't find them, especially in a crowd. I'm trying to just figure out where the bodies are that are moving, and I've got that tunnel. And so I'm just never seeing what's happening around me.
Yeah. And it ends up, you get the comment about the girls like, oh, he can't show up unannounced.
Yeah.
So my wife always say, like, he's not getting very far. He can't drive.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's going to be in some kind of vicinity, and can't get in too much trouble. But I've never drunk and drive.
Right.
I've never had to be the designated driver. There's.
But on that note, I do want to say, because like, I guarantee you've done this. Because we couldn't drive, I said, well, I can't be designated driver. I can be designated drinker.
Right.
And if you're losing your eyesight, please don't go down that road. Don't use that joke. If you're having problems with alcohol, please get help. And we're talking a lot about the tough emotional side of this, and don't let alcohol be your crutch. Just don't go down that road. Trust us.
Yeah. Or any substance, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can try to lift yourself up with the wrong stuff.
Lift yourself up, numb the pain, all the classic stuff. But in the end, addiction's just evil. Yeah, it's just horrible.
And what I've actually been able to learn is, and I think you touched on this a little bit, there's always a workaround.
Yeah.
You can always figure something out.
Yeah. So, but I think I'm not going to speak for you, but when I was going through this process, I'm losing my eyesight, I got my seeing eye dogs and things. I was really hesitant to ask for help when I was younger. And so much so that one night, and we were talking about drinking. So one night, a group of coworkers and friends, we were getting together at a bar. We normally got together at a bar that was very convenient for me from work and my home and all that. This particular evening, they decided to go to this other one that for me was much more difficult to get to. So I got myself there, hung out with them, and I figured, okay, I'm hanging out with all my friends. I wasn't going to, and I went into the evening knowing I was not going to ask for a ride home. I just assumed my friends would be good friends and somebody would just offer. But I think the problem was they saw me as too independent. And so nobody wanted to offend me by saying, oh, you want me to give you a ride? And so nobody did. And so I left that evening really upset and angry. And I spent an hour and a half walking home through the rain because I was too proud to ask for a ride. And that did nothing good for me. I was mad at my friends. I was wet and cold, and it was just a horrible night.
Yeah.
And I did it to myself.
Yep. Yeah, it's self-inflicted. And not even with dating relationships, but also friend relationships have actually been impacted by the inability to drive.
Yeah.
Because how many times can you get a ride from somebody? Or you become a burden, or you perceive yourself as being a burden, or you want to inconvenience somebody. We're going to the store. Do you want to go? Do you need to go?
Yeah.
We're going to this town for something. Do you want to go? Sometimes it happens. Majority of the time it doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, My example of that is Costco was very difficult to get to on the bus from where I lived.
Mhm.
I could do it. It was 2 hours each way. So